Why is it easier to get antidepressant, sleep medication, and even opioids than it is to get testosterone? Why are men with the clear symptoms being told that their labs are normal while they still feel exhausted, low, and not like themselves? And why are most people turning to underground sources instead of getting proper medical care? This isn't random. There is a system behind it.
Is that there are more unknowns when it comes to the potential clinical benefits of testosterone in
I watched
men.
the entire discussion, and what they said and what they didn't say matters more than most people realize. I'm Jay Patel, a longevity PA and a founder of MyFitMed. We work with patients on hormones, metabolic health, and performance optimization. Today, I'm breaking down what comes out of that FDA panel and what it actually means for you, and why testosterone therapy is still one of the most misunderstood and restricted treatment in modern medicine. Let's start with why this even matters. The FDA doesn't just approve medication, they shape how these medications are used. They influence labeling, prescribing habits, and ultimately how accessible treatments are to the patient.
Testosterone plays a very important role across multiple organ systems throughout the body.
And one of the biggest takeaway from that discussion is this. Even at the highest level, there is still uncertainty around testosterone therapy. And in medicine, when there is uncertainty, access becomes more restricted. Doctors become more cautious, system tightens, and patients end up with fewer options. But here's the problem. Testosterone is not a niche hormone. It's not just about libido or muscle. It affects nearly every system in the body. Energy, mood, body composition, bone density, metabolic function, and even cognitive performance. Yet, the significant percentage of men have low testosterone and only small portion even receives the treatment. That gap is the real issue. If you have ever been told your testosterone is normal, but you still feel off, comment normal, because this happens more often than people think. Now let's talk about what low testosterone actually does, because this is where the conversation gets oversimplified. Low testosterone is not just about sex drive. It's associated with increased cardiovascular risk, higher body fat, insulin resistance, greater likelihood of diabetes, reduced bone density, mood changes, and even increased mortality risk. So this isn't just about performance, it's about long-term health. Now here's where the things gets more interesting. There's a common belief that testosterone decline is just a normal part of aging, but that's not entirely accurate. The biggest driver of low testosterone are metabolic, obesity, insulin resistance, chronic illness, and inflammation. Aging plays a role, but in many cases is not the primary cause. Now let's talk about the science, because this is where the narrative starts to shift. One of the major studies discussed in FDA panel was the Traverse trial. This study directly challenged a year of concern around testosterone therapy. It showed no increased risk of heart attack, no increase in prostate cancer, and no worsening of urinary symptoms. Other studies discussed showed improvement in metabolic health, reduction in diabetes risk, and no progression of atherosclerosis. So now we have a situation where the data is stronger than the perception, and when the perception lags behind evidence, access becomes limited. Now let's talk about the real barrier. Testosterone is classified as a Schedule III controlled substance. This classification dates back to concern about steroid abuse, but today it still impacts legitimate medical use. What does that mean in practice? More regulation, more scrutiny, and more hesitation from providers. Doctors worry about liability, clinics become cautious, and some avoid prescribing altogether. And with increasing telemedicine restriction, access may become even more limited. Now think about what happens next. If someone can't get a proper medical care, they look elsewhere. Online sources, international suppliers, gym networks. That's where the real risk begins. Unknown product quality, potential contamination, and no medical supervision. I have seen so many young people coming to the clinic with the prior use of illegal online testosterone stuff. If you have ever considered going outside the system because the access issue, comment access. This is more common than people admit. Now let's talk about the other side of the conversation. Testosterone misuse is real. At therapeutic dose, there is no evidence of addiction, but at the higher abusive dose, dependence can develop, along with significant health risks, cardiovascular issue, hormonal shutdown, mood instability, and withdrawal symptoms. So yes, regulation comes from a real concern. The issue is how it's being applied today. Now let's talk about supplements. Testosterone boosters are heavily marketed, but most are unregulated. Some contain hidden compounds, including steroids or hormones, and many simply doesn't work. So while this seems like a safer alternative, they often create more certainty. I have seen people using online testosterone booster, over-the-counter booster, coming up with liver damage or increased liver enzymes, bad cholesterol, and so many other issues. Now let's talk about diagnosis. Most guideline uses a cutoff around 300, but there is no perfect number. Different systems respond at different levels, and symptoms matter just as much as lab value. Treating a number without considering how someone actually feels misses the bigger picture. If you've ever been told that your labs are fine but you don't feel fine, comment numbers or comment your testosterone number if you have ever tested. That disconnect is very real. Now let's briefly touch on GLP-1 medication because this comes up in the discussion. There is a growing trend of combining GLP-1 with testosterone, but not everyone on GLP-1 needs testosterone. Muscle loss during weight loss is expected, and the primary tool to address that are protein intake and resistance training. Testosterone should only be considered when there is a true deficiency. You have to get tested first. Now let's bring everything together. The issue is not whether testosterone works. The issue is excess. The system is cautious, sometimes overly cautious, and that leads to undertreatment, confusion, and people seeking unsafe alternative, which is even worse than restricting testosterone through medical provider. Final thought. Testosterone therapy is not about enhancement. It's about restoring normal function, energy, metabolism, and quality of life. And right now, the biggest challenge is not the therapy itself. It's navigating the system around it. If this helped you understand why testosterone therapy is so difficult to access, make sure you subscribe. If you have had trouble getting evaluated or treated, drop your experience in the comment. And in the next video, I'm going to break down exactly what lab you should look for and what lab you should be getting and how to interpret them. If you think you have low testosterone, that's where things get really clear. You don't want to miss that one. Stay sharp, stay healthy.